4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show. across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That is 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter X at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Hunter Henry's going to stop by from the New England Patriots at 5:20 p.m. Eastern Time, 2:20 p.m. Pacific today. Sorry, I had a little brain fart right there out of the gate. And we'll be rocking and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. And right when the show ends, Stu, Samter, and myself will be going out for the Zach Gelb Show holiday dinner at a very good restaurant in New York City called Harry's. So looking forward to having a few drinks and also having a good meal tonight with the guys. All righty. Let's start the show off today with Week 16. It is upon us. It is crazy that it's already Week 16. And it's weird with the NFL season this year. I'll just be transparent. Obviously, I watch all the NFL stuff. We talk about all the NFL stuff. I have found the college product to be more riveting, to be more compelling this year. And we sit here through the first 15 weeks of the NFL season, and it's like, okay, what do you know? You know that Kansas City is going to be a tough outcome the playoff time, obviously. Buffalo looks like a wagon, and their offense with Josh Allen, he's trying to have his year. In the NFC, the Eagles are a well-rounded team and arguably the most well-rounded team in the NFL. I know the Lions have been decimated with injuries, but they're still a heck of a football team. Outside of that, there's not a lot of teams that you love to gravitate towards or you're expecting are going to be standing at the finish line at the end of the year. Baltimore's good, but they have their playoff struggles and their playoff demons they have to overcome from the past. The Steelers are good, but I don't think they're a big game team right now. They haven't won a playoff game since the 2016 season. The Texans right now look like a unit that are not ready to take that next step. They're in the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to go to a conference championship game or north of that. And you look in the NFC, Commanders, nice story. They'll be a playoff team in all likelihood, but they're not going to be a threat to win it all. Could the Vikings or could the Packers, could they end up being the third best team in the NFC? It's possible. I look at the Bucks. I think they're a good football team. The Rams, if they get in, they're going to be a dangerous football team. So really, when you look at the NFL, it's been a lot of unknown. It's also been a sloppy product. And I'm usually always NFL, NFL, NFL. But I don't think the NFL product has really been all that intriguing and compelling this year, because you look at it and you go, man, it still looks like we're in preseason mode. And then you remind yourself, oh, Week 16 does kick off tonight with the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers. And you just look at these two teams. The Broncos and Chargers have both overachieved this year. No one thought we'd be sitting here getting ready for Christmas and the holidays, and the Denver Broncos would have 9 wins with 3 games to go in the season. Look at the Chargers. There was intrigue before the season because of Harbaugh, and the Chargers have even overachieved, but I thought the AFC was going to be deeper than what it actually was. The Chargers being 8-6 isn't stunning to anybody, but the Chargers have been better than I think what the general sentiment was around the Los Angeles Chargers before the season did commence. So you get to this point of the year, and you got to remember the awards are regular season awards. And you start to wonder who's going to be your MVP, who's going to be your coach of the year, who's going to be the comeback player of the year, who's going to be the offensive rookie of the year, who's going to be the defensive rookie of the year, who's going to be the defensive player of the year. And in some of those, I think you know who is it going to be. For example, right now for the NFL MVP, I'd be really surprised at this point if it's not Josh Allen. For defensive player of the year, I'd be really surprised if it wasn't TJ Watt. For offensive rookie of the year, I know you can make the case for Bo Nix. I know you can make the case for Brock Bowers, but I still think it's going to be Jaden Daniels. Defensive rookie of the year, a little bit more compelling. I thought it was going to be Jared Verse. We'll see if it ends up being Jared Verse. Comeback player of the year, it's a different criteria, so that's even tougher now to evaluate. But when I get to coach of the year, I could give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even upwards to 10 names, and you can make the case for your guy, but you can't say like the other 8 or 9 guys aren't close to being deserving. So it's weird to say it this way, with how sloppy, with how bland, with how ugly of a product the NFL has been. There's still been a lot of good coaching jobs done this year. And you go through them, and you go through some of these coaches that we'll talk about, like Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin was getting shredded, absolutely shredded, when he made that decision to sit down Justin Fields and go to Russell Wilson. It's worked. The Pittsburgh Steelers, from the talent that they have on this roster, or lack of it on the offensive side of the ball, they've overachieved this year. And that's because Mike Tomlin's done a good job coaching that team. Sean Payton with the Denver Broncos. When he drafted Bo Nix 12th overall, a lot of us thought he was crazy. You know, Denver has a solid defense, obviously with Surtain leading the way. But you look at their offense, it's not as if you have a lot of players right now that you look on that offensive side of the ball and you go, oh, wow, you're intimidated when you line up against the Denver Broncos offense. So Denver is 9-5, and a large reason because Sean Payton turned the narrative around when you have people like myself questioning him after 1 year in Denver. And he has started to look like the Sean Payton that we saw for years and a lot of us loved for years with the New Orleans Saints. Jim Harbaugh. It's an adult in the room. It is a coach that went to a place that, even though their talent has dropped off a little bit, you know, especially on the offensive side of the ball, sure, you have Justin Herbert, but skill position-wise, when Ladd McConkey is arguably your best skill position player, it's not as if the Chargers are sitting there and just oozing with a ton of talent on the offensive side of the ball. But Jim Harbaugh walks in. He's the antithesis of Brandon Staley. He's an authentic coach, a genuine coach, a coach that is a no-nonsense coach. He is a player's coach, but he's not a doormat, and he's a culture guy. And he has a very simple philosophy. And I know it didn't work last week, but his philosophy has been play good defense, build a team through the trenches, as Dave Gettleman would say, have a lot of hog mollies on the offensive line, and run the football. And eventually they're going to put more on the plate of Justin Herbert, because Justin Herbert's still the strength of that offense, but Harbaugh has been just basically doing a system that he's always done with the Los Angeles Chargers. Harbaugh's done a really good job. You know, I'll tell you, Kevin O'Connell. I think most of us going into this season put the Minnesota Vikings as the 4th team in that division. We knew going in the Lions were better. We thought going in the Packers were better. And then some people did say, now the Vikings are still in front of the Bears, but the Bears were a team, they were a hot team this offseason. They were a team that people like, oh, you know, 2 more wins, they'll be a playoff team from what they were a year ago. Like, Chicago had expectations this year. And you looked at Minnesota, it was like, oh, J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold. You know, the defense, Flores is a good defensive coordinator, but that won't be a great defense. And then offensively, yeah, you got Justin Jefferson. Yeah, you got Addison. Yeah, you got Hawkinson coming back from the injury. Yeah, you have Aaron Jones. But can you trust the quarterback? And Kevin O'Connell has this team with 3 weeks left in the season with only 2 losses. And why do you think Sam Darnold is playing at this incredibly high level? It's not because all of a sudden Sam Darnold started to become a great quarterback again. He's put in an advantageous situation by his head coach and with the players that surround him. You know, I'll even give credit to a guy like Matt LaFleur too. Not that the Packers have overachieved this year, and I don't think Matt LaFleur is going to win Coach of the Year, but Matt LaFleur is someone that he's had to win games this year without Jordan Love. You know, he's won games this year with Malik Willis, for crying out loud. So I'll give credit to Matt LaFleur as his stock continues to boom in the post-Aaron Rodgers era during his time when Aaron Rodgers was with the Green Bay Packers and Matt LaFleur was there. And I'll give 2 more credit to 2 more coaches. You know, just when you go through this and you rattle off like 7 or 8 who are in the running for NFL Coach of the Year. Sean McVay. Now, I don't think Sean McVay could win the award because Sean McVay's already at a standard that everything pretty much has to go perfect for him to win the award with the way that he's viewed in this league, and he's already won a Super Bowl in this league. But for that Rams team, with all the injuries they suffered early on and how terrible of a start they got off to, for them to get back into a spot where they could win this NFC West, that's a heck of a coaching job by Sean McVay. But probably one that won't really get appreciated because you look at that team, you see Cooper Kupp, you see Puka Nacua, you see Matthew Stafford, Fisk has done a good job. Also, you've had Jared Verse, the youngster, do a good job as well. But McVay's at a point where he's at such a high level. Like a guy like Andy Reid, they only have one loss. Andy Reid's not going to win Coach of the Year this year in the NFL. There's just certain guys that are at that level where they almost have to do everything in a perfect way in order for them to win the award. But the one guy that I didn't mention, and I think it's very much open for debate, but the guy that I would still name Coach of the Year right now is Dan Quinn. Because Coach of the Year, and I know it's up to many interpretations, but I think most of the times it's who has overachieved and who is a coach that does a better job than what we ever expected them to do. Like when Dan Quinn was hired by the Commanders, the sentiment was, man, they had to settle on Dan Quinn because Ben Johnson didn't want to go there. And when I looked at Dan Quinn going to the Commanders, yes, there was disappointment it wasn't Ben Johnson because that was a foregone conclusion and it seemed like a lock when we entered last offseason. But I've always thought Dan Quinn was a coach that was deserving of a second chance. And he stayed too long in Atlanta, and that's because Arthur Blank was very loyal to Dan Quinn and loyal to a fault. But Dan Quinn, because of that blunder that he had up against, and it's a big blunder, up against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, when they were up 28-3 and they didn't win the game, there's just certain coaches, when you have that on your resume, it doesn't matter that if you've done really good work before it or really good work to get to it or really good work after it, you're always going to be synonymous with that moment because that moment was such a horrible and awful and terrible look for Dan Quinn. But Dan Quinn did good stuff with the Atlanta Falcons. And everyone's time comes to an end in a certain spot. And Dan Quinn, I have always thought, should be getting another job. He did a nice job with the Dallas Cowboys as the defensive coordinator. So Dan Quinn goes to the Commanders, and he's not the guy. But you're operating in this first year without Josh Harris. You got a rookie quarterback, and I know most of the people are going to give credit to the rookie quarterback. Cliff Kingsbury calling plays. Most of the people will give credit to Cliff Kingsbury. But you just hear about the culture shift that's happened in D.C., and a lot of it's because Josh Harris is now the owner, and it's not Dan Snyder. But Dan Quinn was also the right coach to usher in that new era. And I think Dan Quinn's done a really good job with this football team. And assuming that the Commanders make the playoffs, which I think they will, then I have a feeling it's going to be Dan Quinn. So those are just some of the coaches that we go through on who could win Coach of the Year. Mike Tomlin, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, Kevin O'Connell, Dan Quinn, Matt LaFleur, and Sean McVay. And I'm going to say that right now, Dan Quinn's still going to be Coach of the Year in the NFL. What say you? 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. Stu, let me ask you this. Do you agree with that? That Dan Quinn right now, if the season were to end today, would win Coach of the Year in the NFL?
He would be my vote for sure. I think O'Connell would be a close second. And then after that, I'd be kind of between Jim Harbaugh and Tomlin. But I think Quinn is the guy. Just what he's done with Jaden Daniels after kind of a mess of what the Commanders were before getting there. And they're not a contender to win a Super Bowl, but they're going to get to the playoffs, which I don't think a lot of people expected.
So I would say, obviously, Quinn's one. You then had O'Connell 2, and then,
I do.
And then who was 3? Was it Tomlin or Harbaugh?
I would probably go Jim Harbaugh 3.
Okay. So I would say Quinn is 1. I would agree with you that O'Connell's 2. 3's fascinating.
It's tough.
So I know they've overachieved this year, the Steelers, and I know it's a regular season award, and Tomlin's done a really good job, like I just said. There's still a but with me with the Steelers. But they haven't won a playoff game since the 2016 season. So if I'm trying to do a tiebreaker here for third, I'm a huge Jim Harbaugh fan. Everyone knows that. I would actually say Sean Payton is third. Just because you look at those 3 teams. If I would have told you, Stu, before the season started, that the Steelers make the playoffs, you could at least see it. If I would have told you before the season started, the Chargers with Harbaugh makes the playoffs, you could at least see it. If I would have told you before the season that the Denver Broncos with Sean Payton would have made the playoffs, and they still have to lock that up, with Bo Nix as their quarterback, no true offensive star, and a defense, defense is good. Defense, obviously, they have 2 Defensive Player of the Year candidates. But, that would have been the one. Which one doesn't belong if I told you before the season, Steelers, Chargers, and also the Broncos. You would have probably said the Broncos don't end up making the playoffs, right?
I would have said it's more likely that they win like 4 games than make the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's why I think that's a big tiebreaker here. Like, I go through the top 3 here. Quinn, I could have seen a little bit the Commanders making the playoffs, but I wouldn't have said it's likely. I look at the Vikings. I could see them making the playoffs, but I did not see them only having 2 losses this way and Sam Darnold balling out this way. And then number 3, I put Sean Payton there because I really thought, hand up, I thought the Broncos were going to be a bottom 5 team in the league. And even after that game, remember the Jet game? It was week 4, where Bo Nix at one point had like -7 or -9 passing yards. I'm like, well, why the heck did they draft this guy? You know, Sean Payton, you should have stayed at Fox and you shouldn't have come back to coaching, and look at the way that he's turned it around. So if I'm handicapping this, if I had to give a first, second, and third place vote, I would still go Dan Quinn 1, Kevin O'Connell 2, and then Sean Payton in at number 3. Now, Stu, if you had to take a guess, because I just looked at the latest odds, Coach of the Year this year, if you just had to pick 5 names, who's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5 highest ranked odds for Coach of the Year, who do you think the top 5 highest guys would be right now in terms of Coach of the Year?
I would say O'Connell and Quinn for sure. I would say Peyton, Tomlin, and LaFleur.
Okay. I think it's going to surprise you a little bit. So these are updated when you get to NFL Coach of the Year and you take a look at the odds right now. Dan Quinn was 1 at plus 180. Not surprising. Kevin O'Connell 2 at plus 500. You want to know who's 3? Andy Reid at plus 550. And I feel like we look at the Chiefs, they only have 1 loss. But a lot of Andy Reid's an offensive-minded coach. You'd be like, oh, the offense has been really sloppy. Jim Harbaugh is 4th at plus 600. Dan Campbell is also at plus 600. So those are the 5 on the odds. And maybe Campbell, we're a little prisoner of the moment just because of the way that it looked the last week. And after that, you have Mike Tomlin at plus 900, Sean Payton at plus 1,200, Jonathan Gannon at plus 1,400. I guess if the Cardinals find the way, I don't think they will, to win the NFC West, then he definitely enters that conversation. LaFleur at plus 2,200, and they cut it off at Sean McVay at plus 2,200 as well. So who do you think is the Coach of the Year in the NFL so far through the first 15 weeks of the season? 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Off our conversation with Coach Chris Peterson yesterday, he said if he was picking all the players in college football to go win with, he would actually pick Dylan Gabriel as his first choice. When we come on back, Stu and I are going to do a little draft of all the players in college football for building a team. Who do we take for quarterback? Who do we take for running back, wide receiver, tight end, a defensive lineman, a defensive back, and we'll also draft a coach. We'll do that when the Zach Gelb Show continues in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Yesterday, we had Chris Peterson on, the former head football coach at Boise State and Washington, now doing a kick-ass job on Fox, doing a bunch of the studio shows all throughout the year. And this was Chris Peterson when we talked about Oregon, and he said this about Dillon Gabriel with some big-time praise.
If I'm like drafting college players right now and I got first pick, the guy that I'm probably picking is Dillon Gabriel. This is my favorite college quarterback, but I know this guy is a really good, experienced college quarterback in a great system, and he has played extremely well. And so this is the guy that I like, and we're talking about this quarterback's making a run. That's why I think Oregon's right now the leader in the clubhouse because of Dillon Gabriel and the parts that surround him, but really because of him.
So I thought that was a really interesting answer, Stu. Because nothing against Dillon Gabriel. He's the definition of consistent. We saw what he was able to do at UCF, Oklahoma, and now Oregon. And he is the quarterback on the best team in the country. And he was a Heisman Trophy finalist. But out of all the players in college football, you're drafting him one. You know, I was not expecting that name to be there, especially when you look at the guys that finished first and second in the Heisman Trophy, and Ashton Genty, and also Travis Hunter in the reverse order, obviously. And then also some of the skill position players we have in college football, and also some of the really damn good defensive players in college football. But coaches know this, and we talk about this a lot, right? Each and every Monday when we get on in here after a college football Saturday and NFL Sunday, 9.9 times out of 10, the topic on Monday is either what did a coach or a quarterback do right? What did a coach or a quarterback do wrong? And the quarterback is really the heartbeat and the leader of the team. And it's the most important position, not only in football, but in all of sports. So I can understand why you do lean towards, out of all the players in college football, why you would take a quarterback first. So let's do this, Stu. Cue me up some music here. Fire me up some music. We'll do a little college football player draft here. If you're trying to build a championship team for this college football playoff, you get one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, a tight end, a edge rusher / defensive lineman, that's how we categorize it to get the front seven in there, and a defensive back and then a coach. That kind of just gets the party started here. So, Stu, it's the holiday season. There's nothing to do that I want the second and third pick. I will be in the giving mood here. No, nothing. Come on. I will give you the first pick. Who would be the first pick for you?
Okay, my first pick would be Ashton Jeanty, the Boise State running back. I just think what he does on the field, 29 touchdowns, almost 2,500 rushing yards on the season. I just think the gap between him, and there are other good running backs, don't get me wrong, but the gap, in my opinion, between him and the next running back is bigger than the other positions.
So now there's a little strategy here. Because we just have to pick one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, one tight end, one defensive lineman, one defensive back, and a coach. So, whoever I think is the second running back, it would be stupid if I picked a running back here.
Sure.
Because Stu already used his running back spot. So, I'm actually going to go to... I'm going to take a tight end. Because I think value here is big. And I think there's a big drop-off from the best tight end to then everybody else. And I could use this tight end in multiple ways where you could kind of use him as your traditional tight end. And then also you could put in specific packages when you get inside the goal line and have him basically just play the Travis Kelce role where you snap it to him and he goes. And who would have thought that Zach Gelb would be taking a Penn Stater and Tyler Warren as the second pick? So now I have the third pick. So quarterback, I think there are a few options. I'm going to avoid that. Running back, Stu is already gone. So here comes the tricky part. How do we identify Travis Hunter? It's like Shohei Ohtani, right? When it gets to, in terms of Shohei Ohtani for fantasy baseball, you could get him as a pitcher. You could get him also as a batter. So there's a lot of other good defensive backs, man. But there's also there's some other good wide receivers too. So I'm going to gobble up here Travis Hunter as a defensive back. I will take Travis Hunter, the Heisman Trophy winner, and what he's able to do as a defensive back. So I have Warren off the board as a tight end, and I took Travis Hunter as a defensive back, and Stu has Ashton Jeanty as a running back, and now to fill out the rest of the roster, he has two more picks.
And just for the record, I cannot double up on Hunter since you took him, right? Like, you took him as the defensive back, or...
You could take him as a wide receiver, I guess, if you really want to.
Okay, well, I will do that. I think he is the best receiver in the country. He's also the best defensive back in the country. So I guess like Shohei Ohtani as drafted as a pitcher and as a DH, I will draft Hunter now as a receiver with my pick.
And that could be a little bit of a controversial take because some people could thought that Nick Nash was the best wide receiver or McMillan from Arizona. But you end up going Travis Hunter as the wide receiver when we identify Travis Hunter correctly. What's the next pick for you, Stu?
Next pick for me, it's interesting. I'm between two positions.
So Stu already has running back and wide receiver off the board. You have not addressed the defense at all yet.
I have not. So I'm between defensive line, edge rusher, however you want to categorize it, and quarterback. Yeah, I'll go defensive line here. I'll go Abdul Carter from Penn State.
Good pick.
He's a great pass rusher, 10 sacks this year. He'll be a very high pick. So I think as an edge rusher, I feel pretty good about having him on my squad.
Okay, so Stu just made two selections. So he has Ashton Jeanty as his running back, Travis Hunter as his wide receiver, and as his edge rusher, defensive lineman, however you want to categorize it, he did take Abdul Carter. That was someone that I was also considering. So for my tight end, I have Tyler Warren. For my defensive back, I have Travis Hunter. So Stu has already taken a running back, a wide receiver, and a defensive lineman. So it would behoove me to then rush here and go get my quarterback, because that's the one position that's available that no one has made a selection on. So when it comes to quarterbacks, this is where it gets tricky. Because like Chris Peterson said, Dylan Gabriel's the most consistent. Cam Ward's really damn good. But I still think the quarterback with the highest upside, and I'm looking to build good team chemistry here, and I know that he's my defensive back that I picked, Travis Hunter, but I'll go take Shedeur Sanders. And also I want Rick Ross to be coming to my games and doing the Shedeur Sanders. So I will take Shedeur Sanders as my quarterback. Now, I have another selection here, correct, Amundo?
Yes, you do.
And notice how no one has even considered taking a coach yet.
That's right. I believe that's the only one that nobody has taken is the coach.
Now, all the other positions are gobbled up so far.
Yes.
In terms of we've all taken a selection each. So it would behoove me to take a coach. So I could go Kirby Smart, right? But I'm going to go Dan Lanning. I'm going to take Dan Lanning. And I think this is the year that Dan Lanning's going to win a national championship. I get the pedigree of Kirby Smart. But I there's something about Dan Lanning. He's going to join us, by the way, on the show tomorrow. So looking forward to that conversation as well. Dan Lanning is he's a football psycho. I always say that, and I mean that in a great way. And I kind of like him to galvanize the group with all these stars and personalities. So I will go Mr. Dan Lanning. You have 2 picks. What do we got cooking here?
Okay, so I guess I'll take my quarterback now, and I will go with Dylan Gabriel. I would be between him and Cam Ward for this pick, but...
I'm surprised you're not taking Cam Ward, because he could be the next quarterback of the Raiders. You're not trying to suck up to him a little bit.
He could be. It's very possible. He had a great season, obviously, with his 4,000 yards and 36 passing touchdowns, but I just like what Gabriel brings as an all-around player. 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 7 more rushing touchdowns on the ground, 3,500 yards. I feel pretty good with Dylan Gabriel as my quarterback for this team.
Okay.
And then... So I have tight end, coach, and defensive back left.
Mm-hmm.
So defensive back, a bit of a homer pick, but I will go with Xavier Watts, the Notre Dame safety.
It's not a homer pick. It's a great pick. He was actually one of my defensive back lists.
Yeah.
I wrote Xavier Watts, but then I also put Travis Hunter and Will Johnson. I just threw the 3 names out there, and I ended up going Travis Hunter, but Xavier Watts was technically the first name that I did write down.
Okay. So, yeah, I feel good about that. 5 interceptions on the year. I also had the Georgia safety Malachi Starks on the list as well, Will Johnson. Well, I'm shocked only had 2 interceptions. It felt like he had a lot more this year, but...
So he had a pick 6. He also missed some games with the injury, too.
Right.
So that factored into it. Okay, so you have made 2 picks. So now remaining, I already have my quarterback, Shedeur Sanders. I do not have a wide receiver yet. I do not have a running back. I already have my tight end. So I'm going to need a defensive lineman and a running back as my last 2 picks, right? And then we got them all. 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6, 7. No, I'm going to need... What am I missing? I'm missing a defensive lineman. I'm missing a wide receiver.
Yes.
And then I'm also missing a running back.
Yes.
So I am going to take, for my running back, Cam Scadaboo from Arizona State. And I will take for my defensive lineman, Mason Graham from Michigan. So when Stu takes Ryan Day as his head coach, I will have an advantage because Mason Graham has real estate in Ryan Day's head, right? You're going to take Ryan Day as your coach.
Oh yeah.
James Franklin
Sure.
too, right?
Sure. Okay. So for the coach, I'll go Kirby Smart. I just think, obviously, they haven't had the amazing season that many had expected, but they're still in pretty good position, and obviously he has multiple national titles, so I feel pretty good about that. And then the last pick I have is tight end. I would have picked Tyler Warren probably with one of the picks that you had. Like, that drop off is insane.
Tyler Warren's a great player, don't get me wrong. But when you look at the drop off of the other tight ends, that boosted the value of taking him too.
So I will go with Michigan tight end Colston Loveland. Now the stats weren't amazing, but considering he didn't have a great quarterback, the fact he had 5 touchdowns and 56 catches, he's probably going to be a first-round pick. If not, he's going to be a really high pick. So I do think he is the second best, but like you said, the drop-off is pretty crazy.
And also, you look at it, he was still a Mackey Award finalist. You know, you go through especially Michigan this year, it's crazy how bad they were because of the quarterback. And Kenneth Grant's going to be a first-round pick. Mason Graham's going to be a first-round pick. Will Johnson's going to be a first-round pick. Colston Loveland is going to be a first-round pick. And there's also, I'm blanking on his name right now, defensive player he transferred 2 years ago. He could also be like a back-end first-round pick as well. The name will come to me, but it's fine. But they could have 5 first-round picks, Michigan, this year. It's kind of wild when you look at that. So I have one final pick here, and this is a wide receiver. I really want to take Nick Nash. I do, but just because he played at a smaller school, I will take McMillan from Arizona. So that's pretty good exercise that we just did. Stu's running back was Ashton Genty. His wide receiver was Travis Hunter. Abdul Carter was his defensive lineman. Dylan Gabriel was his quarterback. Xavier Watts was his defensive back. Kirby Smart was his coach. And Colston Loveland was his tight end. My tight end was Tyler Warren. I took Travis Hunter as my defensive back. Shedeur Sanders as my quarterback. Dan Lanning as my coach. Cam Scattaboo as my running back. Mason Graham as my defensive lineman. McMillan from Arizona as my wide receiver. And now we can build out the rest of the team. Maybe we'll get some NIL funding and we'll hit the transfer portal as well. Carlos with the K is here. He's got your latest Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
And thank you, Zach. Let's start tonight, Thursday night football with the Broncos in L.A. to face the Chargers. Both teams in really good position to nab a wild card each. But Bo Nix says he's got to learn to move past mistakes.
Going all the way back to 7th grade when I started playing, you throw picks and you got to move on. And, I've been on the opposite and shown bad body language. So, it's just reps and just resiliency and just learning that, you're going to get a new opportunity. You got to flush it and move on to the next.
The Chiefs have removed Patrick Mahomes from the injury report, so he's officially in line to start on Saturday against the Texans. They reportedly have some help as Kansas City will activate wide receiver Hollywood Brown from injured reserve. And good news for the Steelers as well, with T.J. Watt expected to play Saturday versus the Ravens. However, bad news for the Niners. Looks like they'll be without Isaac Guerrero and yet another blow to their backfield, already losing Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, and Elijah Mitchell for the year. Patrick Taylor Jr., the next man up for San Francisco. In the NBA, the Cavaliers will be without Isaac Okoro for a couple of weeks. He suffered a sprained right shoulder in a win over the Nets. And in baseball, right-hander Michael Soroka in agreement with the Washington Nationals. 1 year, $9 million. I'm Carlos Ortiz.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
All right, it's time for a news brief on the Zach Gelb Show. First, this portion of the program is sponsored by the new 2025 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid that has class-leading advanced safety features like the available blind spot view monitor to make your ride more enjoyable. By the way, I was talking about the Michigan players who could potentially go in the first round of the draft. Obviously, Mason Graham's one. Will Johnson is another. Kenneth Grant. Those are the three locks. Colston Loveland should. I've been a little disappointed with Colston Loveland, if I'm being honest. I had high expectations for him, and he's been a good player in college, but he wasn't as great as what I thought he was going to be. It's tough to judge this year with the lack of quarterback. But then Josiah Stewart was the other player that for some reason I couldn't remember who his name was. But Josiah Stewart's another guy that I don't think he'll go first round, but if he did slide in 29, 30, 31, 32, it wouldn't shock me. But I would say early second round for him. Okay, news brief time. Let's get it going. Kirk Cousins on Getting Bench.
There's a standard that I have for myself, that the team has for me, that unfortunately I wasn't playing up to that standard consistently enough. And so, it is what it is. And, you roll with it. I didn't forget how to play quarterback. Certainly the turnovers were not what you want, but I didn't forget how to play.
I wouldn't say you forgot how to play. Is that really part of the conversation? I think it's just more so that you've been terrible. And you've also been trying to overcome this injury. and you don't look like 100%. It was the right decision by the Falcons. Here's Michael Penix. He brings the boom, and this is how he found out he was the starting quarterback.
I was actually shopping. I was shopping with my girlfriend. We was at Costco, and I got the call, and they told me that I was going to be the starting quarterback, for the rest of the season. And as you can imagine, it was some nerves, it was excitement, but I'm just super blessed to be in this position. Super blessed to be on this team for the opportunity.
How great would it have been? Who's the writer in Orlando? Is it like D'Orlando in Atlanta? D'Orlando, something like that?
I think it's Ledbetter.
Yeah, if he just followed up, he's like, Michael, did you get the double chunk chocolate cookie? Boom! That would have been awesome if that was the follow-up question. Michael Penix, one of us, just shopping around Costco. You know what? Maybe Marco's onto something getting on me for having an Instacart delivery from Costco. Michael Penix goes to Costco. Zach Gelb gets Costco delivered to his apartment. That's why Michael Penix probably doesn't have mushy frozen fruit, and I had a reorder that I changed to tomorrow evening because I'm watching college football tomorrow evening, so I will get the delivery sometime between 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Let's go to Brian Callahan. He went on a little bit of a rant on people calling the Tennessee Titans soft.
I mean, you really want to get me going today? Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think it's complete and total if you want my honest opinion. These guys are tough, man. They go after it every day. They play hard as hell. And there's at no point have we ever put on tape at any point this season that this is a soft football team. Like, I can't even wrap my mind around how that would even be a conversation. I mean, just because we don't win games doesn't mean we're soft. Yeah, that makes me relatively angry that would be some presumption. That means you just don't watch, you don't do anything about it, that you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know what you're looking at. So I won't stand for, I'm not going to stand for anybody calling this football team soft. I think that's so if there's opinions out there that feel that way, then they don't know anything about NFL football. So I'd like you to walk in there and call one of these guys soft and see what happens. This is not a soft football team at all, mentally or physically. No chance ever in hell would I ever admit that to be the case, and neither would anybody in this locker room. So you can kind of shove that one right up your ass, to be honest. So
that was awesome. That was great. That was spectacular. That was the best job he's done all season, if I'm being honest. I love that. Brian Callahan, that's great. That's phenomenal. Stu, didn't his father, Bill Callahan, was he the one that got punched by Tom Cable? Was that him? Didn't Tom Cable punch someone, Stu?
I don't know if it was Callahan. It might have been, but he was obviously the Raiders head coach for a few years before that.
And it was Randy Hansen who was punched in the jaw.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was Callahan. I was going to say, should have had his son there if it was when that Tom Cable thing happened. But, man, Brian Callahan, I love that. Here would be my follow-up. Coach, I don't think your team's soft. I just think your team sucks. What do you have to say on that? And just hear what the answer is. Because I never thought of Tennessee as a soft football team. They're just not good. Here is Kurt Warner on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game in San Francisco on people wanting Sam Darnold over Brock Purdy in the offseason.
I mean, the first thing just makes me laugh because, what about the last 2 years with Brock Purdy? I remember I kind of went through since St. Louis, too, is that, went to a couple Super Bowls, won a couple MVPs, and then we had a down year after our second Super Bowl, and people were asking, well, are you going to, change quarterbacks and whatever? And I just remember Mike Martz at one point in the season going, are you guys a part of the amnesia crowd? Like, have you forgot, what happened the last 3 years and how good Kurt was? Like, we're not just going to panic because we've had a bad stretch here, but it's almost like that's what we're doing in San Francisco. Let's forget about these last 2 years because this year hasn't been as good. And then the same with Sam Darnold. Let's forget about everything else he's done in the league.
Okay. I can't say he's wrong because last year people would kill you in San Francisco if you said Brock Purdy wasn't a top 10 quarterback and he was a system quarterback. Then the talent suffers around him this year with all the injuries, and now some people are saying, oh, maybe he is a system quarterback. And sure, Sam Darnold was a bum the first few years of his career, and now when he gets put in a better system, he's playing better. Here's why I don't think the conversation's crazy, because I believe Sam Darnold's a system quarterback. I believe that Brock Purdy is a system quarterback. So with all that being said, if I could get one system quarterback at $55 million and let's say the other at 35 or 36, it allows me to create a better system around them if I go with the cheaper option. So that's why I could understand why some are saying Sam Darnold over Brock Purdy. Alrighty, so we talked about this Ryan Clark, Aaron Rodgers feud the other day where Aaron Rodgers went on ESPN after Stephen A. Smith was on First Take, asked Ryan Clark about Aaron Rodgers criticizing, former players that talk in the media that aren't as accomplished as him. Aaron Rodgers made it a whole vaccine issue, and it's like, what is this, 2021, 2022 again? So Ryan Clark elected to punch back the other day, and this was Ryan Clark on his social media channel.
Here is why I called Aaron Rodgers, or why I called you a hypocrite. Because you're actually on ESPN talking about my fellow colleagues and the people I work with. What's hypocritical about what you said is you said it while on TV with Pat McAfee. Now, I know something else you were very interested in was my vaccination stat. And yes, I'm vaxxed because I have no spleen, I have no gallbladder. And as far as your vaccination status, so you can stop trying to trick people into thinking that we want to talk about that above the stink of your film, I've never heard it one more time after your incident. And also, people didn't care that you weren't vaccinated. They cared that you were slimy about it. They cared that you were deceitful about it. But let me be very, very clear. My job is to analyze you. And in analyzing you, what I know is your QBR is 21st. I also know that you're the quarterback of a 4-10 team who has to win the last 3 games of the season to even be equal to what last year's team was without you.
Yikes.
No, I get it. You get on the show and you talk about my brooch and you curse and all this tough talk. I just need you to know, don't none of that scare me. And if you continue to be arrogant or smug or hypocritical and it pertains to my job, I'm going to do it.
This whole thing is funny, if I'm being honest. Like, Clark's being too serious, but Rodgers is being ridiculous, if I'm being honest. And I just tweeted this out because I did my homework. I watched the Rodgers interview. I watched the Clark interview, and I just tweeted this out, simply this. Aaron Rodgers saying that he doesn't care what Ryan Clark said, but then doing a full rant bashing Ryan Clark is the hypocritical behavior Ryan Clark was initially calling him out on. Rodgers is the ultimate I don't care guy, but we know he does. Aaron Rodgers sounded like the crazy uncle at a barbecue. That tweet did 250,000 views. And my mentions, at Zach Gelb on Twitter, by the way, are an absolute cesspool right now. There was no stance on the vaccine. If you wanted to get the shot, great. If you didn't want to get the shot, fine. That's your decision. But the fact that Rodgers made this a vaccine issue, I believe Ryan Clark was right. It was to kind of, let me not have Ryan Clark bash my play. I got to go bring up something that no one's talking about besides Aaron Rodgers right now. So it's crazy. So I enjoy all my interactions with everyone on social media. It's been fun. It's been really fun. I've enjoyed it. And yes, I'm Zach Gelb. I got Pfizer, right? 2 jabs initially, and then I can't even remember because it's been so long. I got maybe a booster or 2 max. But yeah, that means that I can't comment on anything and I'm a moron. All right, coming on that.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, this is Zach Gelb Show, hour number 2 of our radio program. Hunter Henry of the New England Patriots going to stop by an hour 20 from now. I don't know about you, Stu, and I never want to question a reporter because I do think that Zach Rosenblatt and Diana Rossini do a really good job at The Athletic. But now they've had multiple stories about the Jets. And trust me, I never look to help out the Jets. I usually love and laugh at these Jets stories because it's just incompetence after incompetence. But I don't know. Something just stands out to me today with this one, where clearly the story that came out after Joe Douglas got fired was basically Joe Douglas being the source. And I thought a lot of what was in that article was true. But Stu, you've watched a lot of incompetent football teams, you being a Raider fan. an owner as crazy as Woody Johnson is, and he is not a good owner. We all know that. But there's just something in my brain when I read this Athletic article that Woody Johnson nixed the trade for Jerry Jeudy because his Madden rating was too low. As much as I want to believe that, as much as I want to just make a joke after joke after joke, where anytime now we hear the Jets are in on the player, his awareness in Madden's at a 73. I don't know if the Jets could trade for him. I have a hard time believing, as dumb as Woody Johnson is as an owner, and as incompetent, as much of a clown and a circus that he brings upon the New York Jets, that he's using a Madden rating to determine if a franchise should trade for a player or not. That's just me still.
Yeah, it feels too good to be true, as us who like the content that the Jets give us. It is funny you mentioned the Raiders, because when I first saw that this morning, I was like, that sounds like something Al Davis in his final few years would have reverted to pick the Raider team.
What's the speed of Michael Crabtree?
Let's draft Darius Hayward Bay because he's really fast and has a 99 speed, not Michael Crabtree, who's a good wide receiver.
Yeah. Darius Hayward Bay, man. That was 7th overall?
I believe it was 7th, yeah.
Because he just ran one good 40 time.
Yeah.
That's the Raiders.
That's the Raiders.
Man. Jeez. I'll tell you know who should be kind of kissing the ground and looking up this year? And I'll give him credit, too. And I usually don't give this guy credit, but we haven't heard a peep from him this year. The Jets have taken almost every negative storyline in the NFL that you could think of this year. They've been the incompetent franchise, you would agree. And I know the Patriots have had a lot of talk around their organization this year. The Raiders, too, there's been a lot of talk around the organization. But a guy like David Tepper, think about last year with the Panthers. Everything he did was wrong. Everything he touched turned to crap, not to gold. And he threw that drink in that fan's face. I'll give credit to David Tepper, who I've said, and he's deserved it, a lot of not so nice things about him, but I'm fair. And I have went on rant after rant after rant about David Tepper. But when you crush someone for something bad, I think it's also praising them if we've seen changes. And watch, there'll be some bombshell article that comes out tomorrow with the Carolina Panthers. But the Panthers, for being a bad team this year, they've been respectable, right? Bryce Young has maybe changed a few people and turned their thinking of him being done in this league. And I haven't heard, for a guy that usually likes to be right in front of the cameras, right? Make it all about him, be a meddling owner. He is kind of, from what I could gather, has allowed Dan Morgan and Dave Canales to run this team and also be the head coach of this team. And Stu, I have not heard anything about Tepper this year. And for that, since he's not putting his hand in the cookie jar, we'll see how long it lasts. I think he should be commended for it, because I guess maybe even as dopey as an owner as he was early on, maybe he realized the way that I've been going about it hasn't been the right way.
Yeah, and going into the season, we all thought they'd be the worst team, or at least one of the 2 or 3 worst teams. And especially after the Bryce Young benching, we were like, okay, where does this team go from here? Terrible owner. You just drafted a quarterback first overall that you're going to move on from just after a year. So you're right. All things considered, it's been, a successful year for him.
So this was the stuff from The Athletic. There's a bunch of excerpts about it from U Stadium that they put out there. And it says, GM Joe Douglas told the Broncos that Woody Johnson didn't want to make a trade for Jerry Jeudy because his Madden rating was too low. Once again, I can't believe that one. I think there's reasons to not want to trade for Jerry Jeudy, to be clear. Jerry Jeudy's having a fine season this year, a good season this year without a quarterback in Cleveland. But Jerry Jeudy also was someone that his ego, when he was in Denver, he thought he was a top 10 wide receiver in the league. He thought he was a number 1 wide receiver. I don't view Jerry Jeudy as a number 1 wide receiver. I think he was kind of in that Juju Smith-Schuster category when he was in Pittsburgh. I know that name has not aged well now. But where it was, okay, there's moments where he looks like a number 1, but then there's also moments he looks like a number 2. I think he's an in-betweener. I think he's a 1.5. Like, his ceiling could be a 1. His floor is a 2. But he's usually just equaling right in the middle of that. And he doesn't grab on long enough to be a 1, or doesn't grab on long enough to be a 2. Johnson also followed the decision-making advice from his teenage son. And the Jeudy trade wasn't the only time Johnson cited Madden ratings when evaluating players. And it says, for what it's worth, Jerry Jeudy was an 81 rating and Mike Williams, who the Jets signed, was an 87. So how about that? Now, Stu, listening to your son. So who was it? I think it was Jerry Jones's grandson. There was a draft story about that a few years ago. And maybe that's how they got CeeDee Lamb on their radar. Oh, you got to go get him. But last year, according to this article, Woody started to include his sons, Brick and Jack, 17 and 15. Brick Johnson. What a name. In team meetings, they would share social media posts from various Jets content outlets about what was being said about the team. When we were discussing things, Woody would cite something that Brick or Jack read online, and Woody would weigh it equally against an opinion anyone in the department has, said an executive. I answer to a teenager, Joe Douglas told a team official. That story, Stu, I do believe. Because, right, owners always love to include their families, or a lot of them do. And even though a 17 or a 15-year-old shouldn't be in the room, I could see why a 17 or a 15-year-old's giving what's said out there about their dad or about their team from social media. And Joe Douglas clearly is a source somewhere for The Athletic, Diana Rossini, and also Zach Rosenblatt, where he's like, yeah, I did tell someone, another team official that I basically answer to a teenager. Now, if that was said in a little jest, or if that was said, you take it for exactly what it meant, that I don't know. Maybe a little hyperbole with it, was a little joke, who knows? But I could see that story, Stu, being true when we get into the incompetence of the Jets.
More likely than the Manning ratings, but yeah, I think it was probably something that was said in jest. I think that was kind of, like, I don't think he was actually answering to him, but,
But anytime he went to him, oh, my son Brick Johnson said we shouldn't do this.
Exactly.
Joe Douglas probably wanted to run through a brick wall and hope that he wouldn't actually run through it and he would just fall back after dealing with the Jets and Brick Johnson. So here's another part. Tell me if you believe this one. When the Jets traded Zach Wilson to the Broncos, Johnson said the team wanted to trade pick number 256 instead of 257 because Woody wanted to keep the Mr. Irrelevant pick so the Jets can draft their own version of Brock Purdy. Do you think that one would be true?
I could totally see that.
I could see that one being true. I just wonder how it was said. Was it, Joe, we are not trading 257. We need Mr. Irrelevant because look at what the 49ers did. They got Brock Purdy. If he said it that way, he's an idiot. If he said it, hey, what's the real difference? 256, 257. Let's just get 257 because it's Mr. Irrelevant, right? It's more fun, and maybe we could get our Brock Purdy. I think the tone of that is the interesting part, but I do believe that it was said, and it's just how the tone it was said. Woody also pushed back against the John Simpson signing due to his low awareness rating in Madden, but Simpson had a solid season, and he was also signed with the Jets. Now, here's the one that I think is fun. Do you believe this, Stu? In 2022, Jet legend Mike White played through broken ribs in a game versus the Seahawks. White played poorly, and the Jets lost, officially eliminating them from playoff contention. After the game, teammates heard Woody saying, you should throw your bleeping helmet because you bleeping suck. That comment got to White, and Woody had to apologize. Do you see that being true?
I do.
I do as well. Because I could see him maybe waiting to go to the locker room, or players are running by and he saw a replay on the television making his way to his locker room, and Mike White threw the helmet. I could see Woody Johnson in a moment of frustration say, yeah, he should be throwing his helmet. You bleeping suck. But was it, he just walked up to someone randomly? As much as we like to paint Woody Johnson being crazy and all this stuff, did he just walk up to someone random and be like, hey, did you see Mike White throw that helmet? Yeah, he bleeping sucks. I think it was more so maybe he saw it off of TV, like a replay, and he's like, yeah, he should be throwing his helmet. He bleeping sucked in the game. So there's a lot in this article. Some of it I take it with a grain of salt. Some of it I also embrace it as true. But this is what happens when you have an owner who's a horrible owner and an incompetent organization. There's going to be stories that come out like that. Whether they're said the way that they're being reported or not, it's totally different. But this is the latest bombshell article with the Jets, Jets, and the disaster that are the New York Jets. Now, here's something totally different. Here is Rich Cimini, longtime Jets reporter, and the Jets are the gift that keep on giving. Have you watched the Aaron Rodgers documentary yet, Enigma?
Have not. Me and the girlfriend were on Netflix the other night, the night it came out, and we were thinking about watching it, and we just picked something else. But it will be watched probably in the next few days.
So I haven't watched it yet. I was watching Surviving Barstool last night. But I did see one clip. And he is so high in that clip. And he's spewing about, I forget what it was, that I was not going to watch it. But now I am going to watch it just because how ridiculous the 30-second clip was that I saw of Aaron Rodgers. And I'm walking in saying this is going to be weird. And, right, I shouldn't have any preconceived notions. But I have a good feeling I'm going to walk out of it saying, yeah, Aaron Rodgers is a weirdo. Now, here's Rich Cimini on Garrett Wilson's future with the New York Jets.
Talk to people in Garrett Wilson's circle. They think, now I want to emphasize this is speculation on their part. They think he will ask for a trade after the season. Again, speculative by people who know him. We don't know that to be a fact.
I could see that being true. Because it could be, he could ask for a trade for two reasons. Number one, right, you got 2 years left on the contract. He's in his third year right now in the league. He's not a free agent until 2027. They could pick up his fifth-year option. You know, he has 2 more years left in that rookie deal if they do pick up the fifth-year option. So this is why it could be true. Number one, he could ask for a trade. So in the offseason, it really expedites the contract getting done. Where there's a chance, hey, I'm asking for a trade. You don't give me everything I want. I'm going to still ask for that trade. And maybe then the Jets just come on back. We really want to keep you. We're going to go above and beyond to keep you. And they give him a contract. Or he could be asking for the trade because he could be looking at what happens with Devontae Adams right now. Devontae Adams leaves Green Bay, goes to the Raiders. Derek Carr, they get rid of his guy. Then he goes to the Jets, and now the Jets have Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is either going to be back with the Jets next year, and it'll be his final year in the NFL, or Aaron Rodgers is going to retire this offseason, and then you don't have a damn clue who your quarterback's going to be. And Garrett Wilson is now, through his entire NFL career, hasn't had a quarterback. And I know people say, oh, but you have Aaron Rodgers this year. Aaron Rodgers has been trash this year. Right? He's not been Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't the MVP Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't the great Aaron Rodgers. So I look at Garrett Wilson and I just wonder, what's the motive here? Where I could see why his camp would float this out there, people close to him, he's going to request a trade. But is it to request a trade to expedite the contract getting done and get everything you want? Or is it because you're kind of looking at this situation and go, even if it's Aaron one more year or not, we don't have a long-term answer at the quarterback position, and I want to go somewhere that has a long-term answer at the quarterback position. So let's hear from Garrett Wilson. This is Garrett Wilson from earlier today on his future with the New York Jets.
Would you like to stay here long term?
I don't know, man. I just figure I just do whatever, whatever, go about my day, however, be where my feet at, And if they do it, I would be a blessing. I'd be awesome. I love the Jets. At the end of the day, they were the ones that believed in me. So, yeah. But, yeah, I can't be worrying about all that. Just going to finish these 3 games the right way. But I don't know, man. I can't be looking into all that right now,
Wow. That does not sound like a guy that wants to be there. When you get asked, can you see yourself being here for the long-term future? Do you want to be here for the long-term future? And your answer is, I don't know. I get it. A lot of athletes don't want to talk about their contract publicly. But how many times does an athlete, Stu, get asked a question that they don't want to answer, and they still give an answer that's better than I don't know? Like, it would have been no skin off his back if he just said, I got drafted by the Jets. I hope to play 1 year here. Contracts are out of my control. That's why I have my agent, and we'll see what happens. Right? And that's a different answer than I don't know. It's basically saying I don't know, but telling like a little bit of a white lie if you really don't want to be there. But Garrett Wilson, he's wearing his emotions on his sleeve. Basically saying I don't know in that spot, to me, and this is how I interpret it, Stu, is him saying he doesn't want to be there anymore. Because if you did want to be there and you still want to negotiate, all you have to say is, hey, I got drafted by the Jets, would love to be here for the long haul, but I also expect to be compensated as if I'm one of the best wide receivers in the league, and hopefully we can make a deal work out with the Jets. That doesn't definitely mean you're going to be back, but it's a lot better than saying, I don't know. And hearing I don't know is me thinking Garrett Wilson is getting ready to really run out of this Jets organization, or he's going to make sure that the Jets give him every single thing that he wants to continue to play for the dysfunctional, that's the way that we should call them, the dysfunctional New York Jets. That's the way that I interpret it, though.
Absolutely. It doesn't give you any confidence that he wants to be there, that he'll be, maybe he'll be back, but the fact that him wanting to be back, it doesn't seem like it from that. Not at all.
That doesn't sound good. I may text my buddy Jake Assman. See what the Jet spin zone is here from Jake. He loves Garrett Wilson. And Jake's a friend, right? We go out for dinner all the time in the city. But anytime there's a Jet story that has some negativity, I text Jake. And I love to get his thoughts. And I did text him today about the Madden rating. And Jake told me why he doesn't think it's true, and I agree with him. But the Garrett Wilson one, that's going to be a very, very, very... It's going to be a conversation and a topic that even if he thinks Garrett Wilson's going to be gone because he loves him so much, he's never going to say it. Oh, that's going to be fun. Maybe we'll get Jake on the show one of these days. Coming up soon, talk about the Jets. I think I would enjoy that. All righty, we'll take a break. When we come on back, Stu's got all the teams in the college football playoff this year. I will give you an impact person that I'm curious to see if they're going to perform up to the hype or not with their first round matchup. We will do the 4 games, the 8 teams. We'll talk about them next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All righty, the college football playoff is almost here. Tomorrow night, we will have Indiana up against Notre Dame at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I love that the college football playoff starts on a Friday because that means I don't have to do anything Friday night. And I'll be sitting my fat ass on the couch, and I'll be watching the game tomorrow on Friday. And then on Saturday, I got 2 NFL games, which I don't love, but that's going to be the case. It's fine. I kind of wish that it was just only college football, but I'll be watching those 2 games as well. Texans, Chiefs, all right, not as much excitement as what we thought it was going to be early in the year, but it looks like, Mahomes is going to play in that one. So Mahomes against Stroud, fun. You get Steelers, Ravens at the 4:30 window. It's a good game. Like, you got 2 good games there, but I don't think that we needed NFL on that Saturday. I don't, especially when it's the college football playoff. And then Saturday, you got your slate, SMU, Penn State at 12. Then at 4, you got Clemson and Texas at 8 p.m., Tennessee, Ohio State. And then Sunday, you got your whole NFL slate. So this has really turned into 3 days of football, and more football. And if anyone expects me to do anything other than watch football, A, you're out of your mind, and B, you don't really know me well. So that's what I will say on that. But it's going to be a gluttonous weekend. It'll be a lot of food. A lot of food when watching these games. So, Stu, you're going to give me the matchup of the 4 matchups that we have. You will give me the team, right? We'll do all 8 teams, and I will tell you a person of interest that I have in these games, and just fascinated to see how they're going to perform, whether it's a coach or whether it's a player.
All right, let's start with tomorrow's game, Indiana at Notre Dame. What about for the 10th-ranked Indiana Hoosiers?
Yeah, so I think it's their quarterback, Curtis Rourke. So in his biggest game of the season, it was the Ohio State game. I think a lot of people, when they go back and they watch that game, we talked about, right, like people were talking about how great the Ohio State offense was. If you go back and look at it, it was special teams and defense. And he got popped hard. He dropped the ball, had a fumble. He's going to have to play. I know he had 27 touchdowns on the season to 4 interceptions passing. He's going to have, I don't want to say a perfect game, but for them to win, it's going to be like a high B+. And he's got to play mistake-free. Like, I'm not saying he has to sit there and throw for 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, but he can't have big turnovers. because that's going to be a game that I think it's going to be a good fight between Indiana and Notre Dame. I think it could be on the lower scoring side, which a lot of people probably don't think with both these two offenses. But with also the weather conditions, I could see this being, a 27, maybe 27 too high, like a 23-17, 23-20 type of game. And the way that it gets really lopsided in favor of Notre Dame is that the quarterback has that performance like he did up against Ohio State, where he just did not protect the football well. So Curtis Rourke is the player of interest for me.
All right, and what about Notre Dame, who has won 10 straight since that loss to Northern Illinois?
It is Jeremiah Love. I think this dude is a stud. And I can't wait to see what happens when he gets more opportunities next year. This is a dude that's only had 134 carries this year. He's averaging 7.1 yards per carry, has 949 yards, 15 rushing touchdowns, and also 2 receiving touchdowns as well. So he has 17 touchdowns on Notre Dame. And if this is one of those games, Stu, where the weather forecast is projected to be snow or it's projected to be cold, yeah, you could throw the football, but I don't love Riley Leonard throwing the football anyway. And I know that there's a multitude of backs on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, but Jeremiah Love in a national spot, I know Notre Dame's on national TV all the time, but college football playoff, more people watching, everyone watches Notre Dame to begin with. This is kind of set the stage for next season for Jeremiah Love, not only being one of the best running backs in the country, but one of the best players in the country, period. So I'm really, really, really curious to see what Jeremiah Love's going to do in this game, and I expect a big, 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 big performance for him with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
All right, let's go to the first matchup on Saturday, and that is number 11 SMU at number 6 Penn State. What about the Mustangs? What do you see from them?
So we had Kobe Wilson on, really good linebacker. And he was talking about Kevin Jennings and Brashard Smith. So you could probably say it's one of those two people. Now, you could maybe say maybe it's Rhett Lashley. Does he have that team ready to go on a big stage? I don't think the big stage is going to be the reason why SMU loses. But even though Penn State, they haven't had a great win this year, where their best win was what? USC? And then you pat them on the head because they didn't get blown out in the Big Ten championship game. And, they lost to Ohio State in a game that they could have won too when you look back at the regular season. But it's Kevin Jennings. It's their quarterback who didn't start the season for them. Dual threat quarterback, has 5 rushing touchdowns on the season. Has 22 passing touchdowns as well, over 3,000 passing yards, nearly 400 rushing yards. He's going to have a coming out party on the national stage for them to win this game, especially with how Drew Allard played well in the Big Ten championship game. You got one of the best players in the country in Tyler Warren. I know Penn State has a good defensive player with Abdul Carter, but this seems like, if you look at all these games this weekend, and you say one's going to be a track meet, even in the poor conditions, I could really see SMU and Penn State becoming a track meet, and then you look at Kevin Jennings as the most important person for SMU.
All right, you mentioned Penn State. Obviously, they put up 37 against Oregon. What do you think from them?
James Franklin. And this is a game for James Franklin where I know people are going to say it's a big game because it's a college football playoff. But when you look at it relatively to the opponent, it's a medium-sized game for Penn State, and those are usually the games that Penn State do win. So I do think Penn State's going to win the game. But James Franklin, we will know everything about Penn State at halftime. If they're struggling, if they look lethargic, then the stage is actually too big for them. And that's something that people aren't talking about. But if they're up by 2 touchdowns at halftime, I'm not saying the job is done then. But if you keep on giving SMU a chance, and if you think that if SMU walks into that game saying, we're not afraid of Penn State at halftime and we got a chance, we're within a score, then that's when all the pressure shifts over to James Franklin. You see him get in a tight spot in that situation. He usually doesn't respond well. By the way, I want to play an audio clip here. This is James Franklin the other day, because there's always like an excuse that is made with James Franklin before the game. It's almost as if he sets up every game where he'll give you something in the media that is so small, but I hear it and I go, he's already complaining. He's already bitching about something. This is what James Franklin was talking about the other day.
Obviously, it's a home game for us, but to your point, the college football playoff pretty much runs everything else. So it will not feel like it normally feels to us playing a home game in Beaver Stadium, but But overall, in general, obviously we're glad and fortunate to be home. So we'll take it. This is the structure that exists, and we're going to embrace it and move forward.
It's clearly a home game for you. So who cares if the college football playoff committee, right, is in control of like the operations? You're going to have, I would think you would have 100,000 Penn State fans in the building. Now, tickets are available and they're pretty cheap. But a fan base that prides themselves in an obnoxious, douchey way, if I may say so myself, how they're the greatest fans. And remember, they shamed Fox. Oh, too many Big Noon. We can't even do the whiteout because of Big Noon kickoff. We're the greatest fans. Blah, 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 blah. We'll see what it looks like. I still think on Saturday that building's going to be packed and it's going to be jumping. But James, it's not going to feel like a home game. And then the fans right now, the tickets are so available and cheap. Is this Penn State or is this Temple football, for crying out loud? Like if my alma mater didn't have a packed building, okay, I could understand it. Go Owls. But Penn State, after like Hickey takes every bow around here for how great the Penn State fans are. That's how like the Cowboys, it's how much drama can we stir up. That's how they evaluate if they won or not. For the Nittany Lions, it's how loud can our fans be? And there's so much it's not going to feel like a home game. Oh, jeez. You try to eliminate distractions and you try to not make excuses when you're a football coach. That's why I can't stand James Franklin. He's the ultimate excuse maker. And if they lose, you know that smug guy is going to go right in front of the camera. He's going to be like, I just wish we had a true home crowd. Now it's a disadvantage to have a home playoff game. SMU, it's almost like they're the home team, right? It's like so stupid. Just don't ring the victory bell, James Franklin, if you lose, like you did after the game up against, what was it, Ohio State this year, which made absolutely no sense. It's pathetic. It really is. It's pathetic with the amount of excuses that he provides. It's a home game for it. Like, Stu, do you think Notre Dame, you're a Notre Dame fan, you're a Notre Dame hunk. Do you think Notre Dame's not playing in a home? It's not going to feel like a Notre Dame home game.
Come on, they're even playing a team that's in their state, and it's a home game. Come on,
and still like you're in your home locker room. Like what is? So he was saying that the
NCAA runs it. Doesn't the Big Ten run? Like that's why I don't understand what he's trying to say.
So they run it. So what? You're still going to have the game played in front of your fans.
It's not 50-50 in fans.
Yeah, on your home field, and your players are in their locker room. So what, the Nittany Lion roar is not going to happen every 3 seconds? And come on. He's Fugazi. Fugazi Franklin. Little James, just shut up. All right? Just shut up. He is so insufferable. I can't stand him. I was going to say he makes Ryan Day likable, but I can't stand Ryan Day either. The two of them. Like, put him in a room with me and let me just have an honest conversation. Because, I'm at a point where I want to help the less fortunate. I want to help the needy. And those two guys, they just need to learn how to be college football coaches. Ryan Day, with all the now the rivalry between Michigan and Ohio State doesn't matter. After all the stuff that he said all year. And for James Franklin, now it's going to feel like it isn't a home game. This is what I would follow up. Hey, Zach Gelb, what is even an affiliate up there? The Harrisburg, whatever. So would you rather play this game on the road, James? Like, come on, what are we doing? So you asked me, what was it, Penn State? Yeah, James Franklin. Just don't be a douche, okay? Next matchup.
All right, what about Clemson against Texas? What do we think for the 12-seeded ACC champs in Clemson?
I want to say Maffa, but I'm going to go Cade Klubnik. Because, that pick game, when Klubnik went on that big run to continue their season, that was massive. It's so crazy because you look at the stats and you look at Cade Klubnik. Over 3,300 passing yards this year, 33 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. And you look at Cade Klubnik, I still don't think he's delivered on the player that he was supposed to be. And I know that this guy's career didn't pan out as well, but DJ Uiagalelei, when he was at Clemson, he didn't deliver as the player that he was supposed to be. Now, Klubnik's been better than DJ Uiagalelei, don't get me wrong. But I kind of thought when he got there, and we were told, right, that Klubnik was going to be great. Klubnik was going to be elite. And Texas, you look at their offense, they're not even in love with Quinn Ewers, even though they only have 2 losses and they're 11-2. I feel like we always talk about, when is it going to be Arch? When is it going to be Arch? So I look at Klubnik. I think he's going to have to be to that level that we expect that he could have been, and he has to be great in order for them to win that game.
All right, so what about Texas and those Longhorns who have those 2 losses, of course, both to being Georgia?
I hate to keep on going quarterbacks. And I won't go quarterbacks for Tennessee and Ohio State in the last match. It'll be the last quarterback that I use here. I think this game's going to be closer than what a lot of people think. I see the spread is 12 in favor of Texas. That's the only reason why I think this could be a blowout, because it's almost like they're begging you to plus the points. If that means I'm a sucker and I lose money that way, fine. Clemson, I'm not usually a fan of theirs the last 2 to 3 years because of Dabo. And I'm not saying Dabo has won me back, because I still don't look at them as a national championship contending program anymore. And to Dabo's credit, that's the standard that Dabo Swinney built with his own 2 hands at Clemson. But for them this year, when not many people a few weeks into the season thought they were going to win the ACC, for them to get back to that spot, it's weird. It's weird when you have a coach like Dabo who's able to actually play the underdog card. But I think that he's actually able to play it, and it's believable in this one. So I look at this matchup for Texas, and the player I'm going to give you is Quinn Ewers, just because Quinn Ewers against Georgia has not played well, and that's their 2 losses. Quinn Ewers, all this guy does is win. And he's had some big performances too. But I feel like we still haven't got there with Quinn Ewers, and it's like, oh, this guy's great. So I do think that this is truly a battle of quarterbacks, and whoever's quarterback does play well between Quinn Ewers and Cade Klubnik, that's who's going to win this game. And I know Texas is the better overall team. They're more well-rounded, especially in the trenches and on the defensive side of the ball. They're just a more well-rounded team. But I look at this one, and it's really the better quarterback, I think, is going to end up winning this game between Clemson and Texas.
All right, and our last matchup is Tennessee at Ohio State. What about for the 9th-seeded Tennessee Volunteers?
Dylan Sampson. I know a lot of people are going to say Nico Iamaleava because he's been erratic. But Tennessee's got a good defense. Nico just has to manage the game, make timely throws. But if they're going to win this game, it's going to be off explosive runs, dominating the ground game with Dylan Sampson. And you look at the way that Michigan has beat Ohio State the last 4 years, it's through running the football and playing good defense. But in every one of those Michigan victories up against Ohio State, they've had a big breakout run from a running back. And that game was dictated in the trenches with a great running back. Sampson is a phenomenal running back. And I think he's going to have to break one off, like a 60-yard touchdown run or something like that, and really dictate the game on his terms. And he has nearly 1,500 rushing yards this year, 22 rushing touchdowns. To me, he's the most important player when you look at on the Tennessee side of things.
And what about for Ohio State after that loss to Michigan?
It's Ryan Day. Ryan Day tried to beat Michigan this year with arrogance. Tried to beat them a specific way, not the way that would put them in the best opportunity to win. Because they all got caught up with the born on third base and how Harbaugh just lined everybody up in the trenches and run the football. I really think that Chip Kelly's game plan was impacted by the thoughts of Ryan Day. And now all the pressure in Columbus at Ohio Stadium is on Ryan Day. And that fan base, Ryan Day's not popular there right now. And if they go 3 and out early, or Will Howard has a pick early, those fans are going to turn them quickly. So Ryan Day and how he gets his team mentally ready and where the mental side of that team is at entering that game, we will know a lot about Ohio State in the first quarter. Because the last 3 weeks, they've basically been told, for a team that's 10-2, that they suck, they're no good, their coach should be fired. I want to see how that team responds up against a very good Tennessee team. All righty, let's get the latest update in with Carlos with a K.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Okay, Gelby, the Chiefs have removed Patrick Mahomes from the injury report, who had been dealing with an ankle injury. Here's Andy Reid on how his quarterback looked factoring into the decision.
Yeah, he moved around pretty good. So you're always looking to make sure they can get out of the way, not to further any harm to him. So That's what I look at.
Kansas City will also activate wide receiver Hollywood Brown from injury reserve and hope to play him as well tonight. Thursday Night Football with the Broncos in L.A. to face the Chargers. Both teams in really good position to get a wild card, but eyes will be on Justin Herbert and his own ankle issues.
It's never fun to be able to, to deal with an ankle like that, but, I think the training staff has done a great job of making sure that I'm prepared to go out there.
Tough break for the Niners. Looks like they will be without another running back in Isaac Orendo. It's another blow to their backfield. Same for the Saints, as the groin injury to Alvin Kamara could be more serious than they thought. It's very possible it could be season-ending, as per Adam Schefter. And in baseball, Sammy Sosa and the Cubs have made amends, ending their 17-year estrangement after the former star apologized for making mistakes during his playing career. I'm Carlos Ortiz.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network, and this portion of our radio extravaganza is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227 is always the way that you can get on board. Let's go out to Calgary. Jordan is next up on the Zach Gelb Show. Jordan, what's happening?
Not too much, you?
Doing great. What do you got for me today?
Okay, so Stephon Diggs recently just said that he thinks that Josh Allen should win the MVP.
Yeah.
I'm sure you heard about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that he's just saying that because he wants to butter Josh Allen up and make him feel all good, just so he ends up sucking, or what? Why do you think he would have said that? Because to me, it just seems kind of funny because their relationship quite
wrong. And then still you could look back at it and there are memories there. And thanks for the phone call, Jordan, where you have memories that still are good. So just because it was an ugly ending, and I think that at the end it was more on Stephon Diggs, here's the hot take of the day, than Josh Allen, it doesn't mean that just because something ended ugly that Stephon Diggs hates Josh Allen. To me, I don't look too much into that answer. That answer to me is pretty obvious. Josh Allen's the MVP of the league. So if Stephon Diggs comes on out and says, I think it's Saquon, then I think people go, that's just because he hates Josh Allen. I don't think it's because he actually thinks it's Saquon Barkley, even though there's an argument to be made for Saquon. When he comes out and says, I think Josh should win the MVP, it's because that's who should win the MVP. And if he didn't say it, I think it would have been worse. Not that I really would have cared, honestly, because I know Stephon Diggs isn't playing right now. He's hurt, so, out of sight, out of mind. But to me, I don't think that's something where just because you had a bad last year and a half with Josh Allen and you guys weren't getting along clearly, that all of a sudden you can't say anything positive about him. Like, if you don't say anything positive about Josh Allen this year, you're never going to say anything positive about Josh Allen. And the big misnomer about the Josh Allen-Stephon Diggs relationship, and I don't know if you felt this way, Stu, when you looked at that relationship, you think more people probably gave credit for Stephon Diggs having a bigger impact on Josh Allen's career than Josh Allen having an impact on Stephon Diggs' career, correct?
Right, because he had had some success, at least with the Vikings before going to the Bills.
Like, he was a good player, right? Part of the Minneapolis Miracle, right? Had over 1,000 yards in a season, was a really good player. But I remember the conversation about Stephon Diggs when he got traded from Minnesota. And the conversation about Stephon Diggs when he got traded from Minnesota was this. He's a good wide receiver. But now we're going to see if he's going to be a true top 5, number 1 wide receiver in the league. And to his credit, for a while, for a stretch, he became that in the NFL. But when he was in Minnesota, he had good seasons. 1,021 yards, 1,130 yards. He had good seasons. Goes to Buffalo, though. over 1,500 yards, over 1,200 yards, over 1,400 yards. And even with last year, everything hitting the fan from a personal and professional relationship with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, still had nearly 1,200 yards receiving. He had more yards receiving last year than he ever had in one individual season in Minnesota. So what I'm saying is, yes, Josh Allen needed Stephon Diggs, but for Stephon Diggs to catapult himself into an elite wide receiver field, he also needed Josh Allen. And that's something that does not get talked about enough. It's always, oh, Stephon Diggs got Josh Allen to be great. I think they needed each other. On their own, hey, Josh Allen showed this year he could be a great quarterback. Stephon Diggs has showed on his own he could be a really good wide receiver. But Josh Allen ends up looking better right now than Stephon Diggs because, yes, a lot of people thought Josh needed Stephon Diggs, and then it's like, uh-oh, he's not there this year. And who does really Buffalo have? You have an older Amari Cooper, who I like, but he's not great. You got Keon Coleman, who's a rookie. You got Dalton Kincaid, who's in and out of the lineup. You got Dawson Knox, and you got James Cook. That's why Josh Allen is the MVP. Because it's most valuable. It's not who's the best. Like, I look at the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar's spectacular. But Derrick Henry's also great, too. I look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, Saquon is their MVP. But you look around, they also got Jalen Hurts. They could win last week where Saquon does jack for the most part, and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith both go for 100 yards. If Josh Allen is not at his best, the Bills don't win. So that's why Josh Allen is the most valuable player this year. And also, even when he had 6 touchdowns. 6. Think about that. 2 weeks ago, and they lost. So this dude is clearly the MVP, and I'm glad Jordan brought that up because I just didn't really care for the Stephon Diggs part of it. I was like, all right, whatever, he thinks Josh Allen's the MVP. It's because it's obvious. And if Stephon Diggs didn't say that, then he should be referred to as a Josh Allen hater. So, like, hey, relationships happen all the time. Like, you can have a great relationship with someone, and then it's a really ugly ending, and that ugly ending could always have a negative taste in your mouth where you never look at that person the same and you hate that person. But also, as cooler heads prevail, and maybe you both admit that you were both a little wrong, or maybe one realized that he over-dramatized one thing, you can remember the good times you had, and you can still have respect for that person and just be truthful when you say that Josh Allen should win the MVP. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a break. When we come on back, we haven't done this in a few weeks, but it is a Paper Shredder Thursday. We will eliminate some more playoff teams, and we also have a new wrinkle to the Paper Shredder. So we will get to that on the other side. Also, Hunter Henry's going to join us from the New England Patriots. Coming up in about 25 minutes from now, it's the Zach Gelb Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
How we doing? It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. We got one more hour to play on this glorious Thursday. So, we haven't done the paper shredder in a while. And let me just give you the teams that we have already shredded. So, we have shredded teams that I said would not make the playoffs. We haven't done this in about 3 weeks or so. So, I've already shredded the Dolphins, the Jets, the Patriots, the Cowboys, the Giants, the Cleveland Browns, the Bears, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tennessee Titans, the Carolina Panthers, the New Orleans Saints, the Las Vegas Raiders. So those have been the teams that we have shredded that will not make the playoffs. So the teams that have not been shredded yet, Bills, Commanders, Eagles, Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Lions, Packers, Vikings, Colts, Texans, Bucks, Falcons, Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs, 49ers, Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks. So let's do this today. We will add a few more teams into the paper shredder, and we will eliminate them from making the postseason. And then we will pick up as well next week, and we will also eliminate some teams today that I will add a wrinkle to this that cannot win the Super Bowl. So I will eliminate a few teams from the paper shredder here, and then we will get into teams that are still alive to make the playoffs that I think have zero shot of making it to the Super Bowl. So, Stu, give me my music. I sound like Coach Prime there. Give me my theme music. Then he's dancing with, who is it? Miss Peggy, I think her name is. So this team, because we stopped up the paper shredding for like 3 weeks, I wanted to shred a few weeks ago. And it's the Cincinnati Bengals. And you know what's really annoyed me with the Cincinnati Bengals? Through the majority of the year, people be like, they're a dangerous team. They just got to get into the postseason. And I would say, who have they defeated? And the teams that they have beat have been really, really bad. So the Cincinnati Bengals are a team. They're going nowhere. And they're not making the playoffs. And it's such a shame because you have Joe Burrow, you have Jamar Chase, you got Trey Hendrickson, and all three of those guys are having great seasons. And this is probably the last year of T. Higgins with the Cincinnati Bengals. But this defense is so god-awful. Like, what the heck has happened to Lou Anarumo's defense? They were a strength. They were a good unit, right? When they went to the Super Bowl, they made all those timely stops. But now this defense, as Bart Scott would say, couldn't stop a nosebleed. So the Cincinnati Bengals are getting shredded today. All right, the next team. I thought maybe, just maybe, this team was up to something. And maybe they could surprise some people. But then I remembered who they were and who they always have been. And that's the Indianapolis Colts. They had Peyton Manning. They only won one Super Bowl with the great, iconic, legendary Peyton Manning. They had Andrew Luck, and Ryan Grigson ruined his career. So people like our very own Hot Take Hickey get all excited because they beat the Jets and they beat the Patriots. And then, right when they could still maybe salvage their season, they just bleep the bed. And that game up against the Broncos, whether it's Jonathan Taylor, who I like a lot, fumbling the football before he scores, and right, just dropping it. And then also that trick play where Benito got it and then ran into the end zone and it got intercepted. Like, what the heck are the Colts doing? So the Texans already won this division. The Colts are not going to be a wild card team. We shred the Indianapolis Colts. I will say, when I first started this segment, I was terrible with using the paper shredder. That's 2 for 2 right there, where there were no hiccups, no speed bumps of the paper going right into the shredder and then it's shredding properly. Our next team, the San Francisco 49ers. You could argue one of the more disappointing teams in all of football. Just have been decimated with injuries. Now there's questions of Brock Purdy. Right? Mr. Rock out with your Brock out last year and looking pretty awesome is even going to be their quarterback next year. Would you rather pay Brock Purdy $55 million a year or Sam Darnold $36 million a year? Those are conversations that are being had right now. Old man Kirk Cousins. Will he even be walking in there and reuniting with his BFF in Kyle Shanahan? Either way, the 49ers season is done so. We shred the 49ers. Okay. So now we have eliminated all the teams that just don't have a shot to make the postseason. So we will now start to do, and we won't get through every team this week, but we will get to teams that I just don't think have a chance to win a Super Bowl this year. So when we take a glance at the teams that are still available, Bills, Commanders, Eagles, Ravens, Steelers, Lions, Packers, Vikings, Texans, Bucks, Falcons, Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs, Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks. With some of those teams that I just mentioned, already securing a playoff spot. We will now move the paper shredder into the category of, does this team have a shot to make it to the Super Bowl? And if you get shredded, then I think your team does not have a chance to make it to the Super Bowl. Team number 1, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Fire the cannons! Fire the cannons! Fire the cannons! I'm going to let the Bucs live to see another week. I think Tampa Bay is going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to win that division. And as John Gruden would say, right, fitting, we use a former Bucs coach, Baker Mayfield's got me feeling nicey. I really like the way that Baker Mayfield plays, so I enjoy watching Tampa Bay. Could they end up being the third best team in the NFC after Philadelphia or the Lions? I guess it's possible, but I'm going to let Tampa Bay enjoy themselves for another week. Okay. The Washington Commanders. They've had an exceptional season. The Washington Commanders have overachieved. The Washington Commanders have already had a successful season. The Washington Commanders will be making the postseason. I feel confident. I have great confidence when I say that. But to make it to the Super Bowl, yeah. As Randy Jackson would say, that's a no for me, dog. Okay? Jaden Daniels is phenomenal, but there's no way that this team is winning multiple playoff games. If you tell me they upset as a wild card team one of the division winners, okay, I could see that. But winning multiple playoff games, winning 3 playoff games, wild card, divisional, and conference championship game to get to the Super Bowl, I don't see it. So this one pains me. Usually I would enjoy this because Daniel Snyder was a horrible owner, but the Commanders are in a good spot. And right now, I'm going to say the Washington Commanders, they're not going to be one of those teams making the Super Bowl, so we shred them. Okay. Next up, the Baltimore Ravens. I'm sure many people out there right now are saying Lamar Jackson is not going to get to the Super Bowl. You may be right on that. Lamar Jackson right now, just like he was last year, is playing exceptional football. And you have Derrick Henry. I am concerned about that defense. Really concerned about that defense. But right now, when you look at the AFC, Buffalo and Kansas City are the 2 best teams in the AFC. And after that, it's open for great debate who's the 3rd best team. So if Baltimore sees one of, let's say, Buffalo or Kansas City goes down, could they maybe get back to a conference championship game and win it? It's on the table. So I'm not going to say right now that the Baltimore Ravens can't win the Super Bowl, so I will not shred them this week. The Atlanta Falcons. So the only reason why I didn't shred them from making the playoffs, when we did this for just making the playoffs, is I guess there's still a chance that they could win their division. But even if they do win their division, even if Michael Penix has that big Penix energy, and he's playing awesome. That's a very dicey segment here when I'm saying rock out with your Brock out and your big Penix energy. Even if he does play with some big Penix energy, the Atlanta Falcons, at this rate, the only way this season could be deemed a success is if they make the playoffs. And if they make the playoffs, that even feels right now like it would be foreign, like it wouldn't happen. This team ain't winning a Super Bowl. This team ain't getting to the Super Bowl. This team isn't winning a playoff game. Even if they have a home playoff game and they end up winning the NFC South, they're not getting to a Super Bowl. So we shred the Atlanta Falcons. Alrighty, I got 3 teams left. Stu, I'm not talking about your Raiders, by the way. We shredded them many weeks ago. The Houston Texans. I've been very disappointed with the Texans this year. They're still going to win double-digit games. They're still a good football team. But I thought this was a football team with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter who's doing their job. And then you look at the offense, led by C.J. Stroud, that they were ready to take that next step. I thought they could be a Super Bowl contending team before the season did start. Right? The Texans have changed the way that we all looked at them. But there's been a lot of times this year in the big games where they've been flat. And they've already won their division. They could win a playoff game. But I don't think they're ready to take that next step yet. And in all likelihood, I think they'll do what they did last year, which is in probably the realm of losing in the divisional round if they find a way to get into the conference championship game, I wouldn't be shocked. But I just don't love what I'm seeing from C.J. Stroud in these big games. So I don't see a way that the Texans, who I would not have done this before the year, but with what I've seen through the first 15 weeks of the season, I do not see the Houston Texans getting to the Super Bowl this year. Okay. We next go to the desert. A place where Samter and I have been before. Samter is the king of the desert. When I've been out to Arizona with Samter, this dude knows everybody there. He knows every restaurant. And when Samter walks in, everyone goes, "All hail Samter! Our king has returned." It's like amazing. But the treatment that Samter gets in Arizona is absolutely wild. So I look at the Cardinals, and I say this with great respect, and I also question the sanity of the people of Arizona because Samter is their king. But I look at the Arizona Cardinals, and I didn't eliminate them from playoff contention yet because I guess there's still a chance they win their division. But I really do feel as if it's either going to be the Seahawks or the Rams winning that division. I do believe it's going to be the Rams. So now we've moved into the paper shredder portion of getting to the Super Bowl. The Arizona Cardinals, you don't got a shot to get to the Super Bowl this year. You'll be lucky if you make the playoffs, so we shred you. And finally, for this week, the last installment this week of the paper shredder, the last team, and then we will bring some teams back up next week. I have a future on this team to get to the Super Bowl, and I placed it before the start of the season. Let's get to the Zach Gelb futures that I have right now, brought to you by Zach Gelb's iPhone, as we just wait for one gambling app to load. All right, let me do my Face ID here. Okay, get the Face ID in. Boom, 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 boom. You go to my bets. You get all these advertisements, all these deals, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I have 3 future bets right now. The Detroit Lions to win the Super Bowl at plus 600. They're actually offering me money back on that right now. The Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl at plus 700. They're offering me $12 extra right now off my initial bet. And then before the season started, they're offering me money back. The LA Rams just to win the NFC at plus 1,400. So we get to the LA Rams. I think they're dangerous. I do. And I'm not going to say right now that the Rams can't get to the Super Bowl. Now, they got to make the playoffs. I think they'll win the NFC West. But that defense is playing really damn well in terms of some of the younger players that they drafted. They get a timely stop in the postseason. And when you look at the offensive side of the ball, they got to stay healthy. But you got Stafford, you got Kyron Williams, you got Cooper Kupp, and you also have Puka Nacua. Pook. Doesn't sound right. He sounds like vomit. But I love Puka Nacua. He actually could be one of my favorite players in the NFL right now. So you look at the NFC, Eagles, Lions, the 2 best teams. Just like on the AFC, right? It's, without hesitation, the Bills and the Chiefs. But that 3rd spot is up for grabs. And could the Rams be the 3rd best team in the NFC? With their Super Bowl experience, could they get in and could they go on the run? I think it's possible. So I'm not going to shred the LA Rams. That will do it for the paper shredder. I'm going to move this out of the way because it's pretty disgusting. You know, everyone just throws their garbage in there and shred all their paper in there. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Rob in Connecticut wants to talk about Josh Allen, what I said about him winning the MVP this year. He's next up on the Zach Gelb Show. Rob, what's happening, my man? Thanks for calling again.
Hey, what's going on, Zach? You know, I was listening to the gentleman that called before. He's talking about how, why would Stephon Diggs say this and that. I just want to let you know, Zach, that I am an avid listener of WGR 550. So okay. I hear Sal Capaccio, the sideline reporter, every single day. Yeah, he's a great guy. And I have nothing else better to do because I am blind, so I just lay here every morning. I listen to Joe and Jeremy in the morning and Sal Capaccio. So I hear the ins and outs about the Buffalo Bills. So what I wanted to just say is that I went through OTAs with them. I went through training camp with them all the way up till now. So in the beginning of the season, during training camp, it was like, as a fan, and a lot of us fans, our expectations were not high at all. We were all like scratching our heads. We got rid of Stephon Diggs. What are we going to do? And this and that. And then all of a sudden, the season started playing out. And it was like, you know what? Josh is working with a lot of guys that are doing something out there. Josh is a leader. Yep. And that's one of the reasons why he's up for that MVP. Not only is he a talented athlete on the field, but he has showed or exemplified nothing but leadership throughout the season. And I mean, it's mind-blowing what the Bills are doing offensively. Defensively, yeah, we're a little shaky, but offensively with Josh Allen behind the line of scrimmage and doing what he's doing with Shakir, Coleman, Kincaid, I mean, all these players that we didn't know or what to expect. Let's not forget about Amari Cooper. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm not taking anything away from Lamar Jackson, but where credit due, it's where credit is due, and that's what Stephon Diggs was saying, because he has played with Josh Allen, and he knows what he was capable of doing and what he is capable of doing, and that's why Josh Allen is going to be the MVP. With that being said, thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. One quick question, Rob. Have you ever been to Buffalo, just wondering, for a game?
You know, actually, that's on my bucket list. Even though I might not be able to see the game, I want to be a part of Bills Mafia. I've been to MetLife to see the games, but it's like my all-time dream to be a part of the Bills Mafia. I don't know when, but it will happen.
Well, if you ever go to Buffalo, so one of my good buddies from college is Deion Dawkins of the Bills.
Oh, you already know.
Yeah, there we go. Trust me, I have heard you already know before you already know was a thing. Deion's one of my close friends from college at Temple. He recommended me to go to Bar Bill Tavern, and they had these wings, Cajun honey butter barbecue wings. When you go to Buffalo, make sure you go to Bar Bill Tavern. And tell him Deion Dawkins sent you.
I will definitely do that. Anything Cajun, because I used to live down in Louisiana at one time, so I know all about the Cajun.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Rob, appreciate it. Thanks for listening as always. I really appreciate your support. There's Rob in Connecticut. The Buffalo Bills this weekend, they play the New England Patriots. Hunter Henry from the Pats joins us next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Alrighty, rock and roll. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. We go out to the guest line right now. Welcome in a tight end for the New England Patriots. He, of course, is Hunter Henry, and he's here today on behalf of Compassion International. Hunter, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this, and how you been?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. So I know when you played in college at Arkansas, you ended up winning the Mackey Award. That was just handed out this past weekend. I saw Tyler Warren from Penn State got the honor. Have you been able to watch a little bit of Tyler this year, and what are some of your impressions on him?
Yeah, I've caught a few games of Tyler's this past week, or this past year, and yeah, he's an impressive athlete, man. He does so much for that team. It's always good to add another guy to the Mackey fraternity in a way. It was well deserved. He's had a tremendous year, and looking forward to competing with him at this level.
Well, the last 2 years, Brock Bowers was pretty comfortable winning the award. The last 2 seasons, we know what his expectations were going into the league, and so far, with the few weeks left in the season, the guy has 90 catches for 968 yards. So he's going to clear the 100-yard, 100 reception mark, 1,000-yard mark. Just knowing how tough it is to come into the league with expectations, for him to make that transition just so effortlessly. Just what stands out to you on that?
It's huge. It's probably one of the hardest positions in the league, just mentally, and then obviously physically, just everything they ask you to do. And he's done that effortlessly. I mean, just he's got a ton of talent. I mean, obviously we all saw it in college and everything, but to transition that to the NFL has been impressive, and hats off to him. He's killing it.
When you got drafted by the Chargers, you had one of the greatest tight ends of all time, Antonio Gates, in that organization and in that room. Looking back, just how fortunate were you to have a resource like an Antonio Gates when you first got into the league?
Oh, it's huge. He was a big time mentor for me. Somebody I was able to lean on when I was really young, that I still look back on all the things that I was able to just watch and learn from him at a young, as a young guy in this league, and be able to just see the success he had. He's helped me really make it to this point. Just having a guy like that in the room early.
But what were some of the things, just wondering, that you really took from him specifically?
It's more, I think a lot of things were just watching how he went about his business. Obviously, football wise, I learned a lot. Just how he saw different routes, how he, manipulated guys. He didn't always have to run, full speed, but was able to, understand coverages and understand leverage in a way that has really helped me to this point.
Talking to Hunter Henry right now on behalf of Compassion International. This being in New England, they have a rich tradition for tight ends. Obviously, with what Gronk did. Also, you go back years ago, Ben Coates. I know there was 2 years in between you getting there with Gronk leaving and then eventually coming back, but going to Tampa Bay. Did you kind of feel that burden when you got to New England? Because you were kind of viewed as the guy, all right, big free agent signing. You were going to be one of the guys to try to replace a Gronk all those years later.
I never felt it as a burden, man. I just try to be myself, try to be as consistent as I can every single day, continue to get better, and improve myself. So never saw it as a burden, more as a challenge. And I always like to rise up to challenges in a way. I mean, obviously Gronk is a special player and did so much here, has so much success in this league. So, you're never going to be a guy like that per se, but, just trying to be as consistent as I can every day and be the same person.
So we take a look at the Patriots now. There's a lot of excitement because of the young quarterback in Drake May, just being a teammate and seeing how he's grown throughout the year from finally getting some opportunities to play. Just what are the impressions? Tell us everything we need to know about Drake May and what it's like being a teammate of his.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, man. He's growing a lot. Every time he gets out there and sees something, I mean, he just continues to get better. So it's fun to grow with him. It's fun to see just how much improvement he's made just from this first start and just even from training camp. So it's very exciting. I know he is always trying to get better, always trying to improve. And it's fun to be around a guy like that every single day.
I know it's very ambiguous to say someone just has an it factor because it's tough to describe. But do you kind of sense that when you're around him, that he just has that franchise quarterback type of feel, that it factor that you need from all quarterbacks?
I hate to put that on him in a way, but I just think he handles his business the right way, on and off the field. Obviously everybody else sees the talent on the field, but I think it's the stuff off the field, just being a good guy in the locker room, a guy that just wants to be with the guys and lift everybody up in a positive way. And so I don't know if I could say all that. I'll let you guys discuss and debate on the it factor and all that stuff. But I enjoy being around the guy. Obviously the player is special as well.
Just curious, because a lot of people expect this to be a big offseason in New England. There's going to hopefully be a lot of moves that are made and more talent added to this team. I'm just wondering, you being there, if like a free agent hit you up and said, Hunter, I'm considering the Patriots, why should I, make that move for me and my family? Just what do you kind of would tell them right now about what you guys are building in New England?
Oh, man, obviously Drake is very, very talented and he's got a bright future. So, obviously if you're on offense or defense, a quarterback is one of the most important positions in this league. And so, Drake is super talented and a guy that's just super easy to be around and a guy that honestly you just want to go out and play with and play for. So, hopefully we can get, more guys in here and whatever it entails or whatever it looks like. I don't know. But yeah, I would just say that, obviously we're talking about Drake and he's a special player, but also a special person.
Yeah, hopefully T. Higgins hears that message, if I may say so myself. Hunter Henry here with us. How about your coach, Gerard Mayo? I know he's been around the organization, right? He was on Bill's coaching staff. Now, though, he's the head honcho. Just what is this experience like, seeing him now be the head coach, and how do you kind of describe him as the head football coach of the Patriots?
Yeah, he's great, man. He's been around here for a while, obviously, with the pedigree under Bill. So brings a lot of that to the table, but his own mix to it. I have a ton of respect for Mayo and how he runs things, how he gets guys going. And it's been a lot of fun to grow with him. Obviously, there's been a lot of struggles this year, and it's not what we wanted at all. But I feel like he's handled it head on and done a tremendous job in that aspect.
It seems like what you're saying, the confidence has never wavered in the belief in him. Because you know how when the times aren't going well and people are losing, people are going to speculate, is it a one-and-done situation? It seems like you still believe in the head football coach.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I always believe in my head football coach, especially Mayo, man. He's been consistent throughout the whole year and who he is. So I would not question that.
All right, let me get your thoughts on Bill Belichick. What was your reaction when you saw that he was going back to the sideline, but it was going to be to college with UNC?
Yeah, I was a little surprised, maybe, just to be truthful with you. But I'm happy for him, man. He's a heck of a football coach, man. Obviously, one of the best to ever do it. I was honored to be with him for a few years, and he's taught me so much just about the game and how to see the game in so many different ways. So obviously, those college kids are going to be very lucky to have such an influence like that in their lives, football-wise.
I don't know if sad's the right word, but was it a little bit like upsetting, even though he's no longer your coach? But you would think when Bill would be making a return, it would be to an NFL sideline where he kind of belongs and all the success that he's had in the league.
I don't know if it was sad. I think it was just, Bill just loves the coach, man. And I think he makes an impact on people and can help people grow, continue to get better. And so I think he saw it as a challenge. I don't know if I would say sad at all. I think he's excited for the opportunity ahead.
Last thing I'll ask you before we talk about Compassion International, Hunter Henry here with us. When you look back at your college experience at Arkansas, just what were some of the things that still to this day that you kind of hold with you from that time being a part of Pig Suey?
Yeah, I mean, I take a lot of pride in that state, kind of helped form who I am. My dad played there. I had a grandfather who played basketball there. All my brothers played there. So just my family takes a lot of pride in that state, and I still do, even to this day, like still going out there and playing. To this day, I still, kind of carry a piece of Arkansas with me and just want to represent that state as best as I can. So I had a lot of pride when I played for them. I still do, like I said. And it was just a blast, man. Obviously, we were kind of middle of the road team when I was there, but still, it was just a lot of fun. We kind of built something I felt like good. We had a lot of talent, a lot of good football players that I was able to spend time with. I had a lot of coaches that really impacted me and helped get me to this point that I'm still playing this game at a high level.
Before we let you run, Hunter Henry, the floor is yours. Just let me know what you got cooking up with Compassion International.
Yeah, I mean, so I actually got to My Cause, My Cleats this year. I represented an organization called Compassion International, an organization me and my wife have supported for a long time, and just wanted to kind of raise a light and awareness to an organization that's doing so much good in this world. Compassion International is an organization, a child development organization that releases kids from poverty in Jesus' name. And that's everything that me and my wife are about. We actually are kind of really supporting their current campaign right now, which is to fight for first, which helps when you donate money, you can help build survival centers and development centers for moms and babies in third world countries to help support them through their first year of life, or through the pregnancy, the birth, and then their first year of life. And we've kind of really taken that to heart and tried to support them in that aspect, because it's helping so many women across the world, because it just blows my mind. I have 2 kids of my own now that I couldn't even think, just thinking back to, giving birth and just that whole first year, all the support that we had through that. There's a lot of moms and babies throughout the world that don't have that support at all. And some of these babies don't even make it to their first birthday. And some of these moms don't even make it. So it is really touched my heart and it touched my wife's heart. And so that's why I supported them for my cause, my cleats, and continue to support them throughout the years. And they do such great work. And we're so honored to be partners with them.
And for more information, you can visit www.compassion.com. He is Hunter Henry of the New England Patriots. They play the Bills this weekend. Hunter, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
All right, man.
There he is, Hunter Henry for the Patriots, joining us on the Zach Gelb Show. Carlos with a K is here. He's been doing our updates today. Are you producing Bart tonight still?
Of course I am.
Oh, so you are here. What time did your shift start? What, noon?
Yeah, you get here 12:30. Do the first one at 1:30.
So you got here at about 12:30. You're here. Are you what are you doing from 6 to 10?
I will be getting Bart as much sound as humanly possible. We might be after hours with Bart Winkler today. I got a lot of free time in my hands.
You know what? Should I be a good guy here, Stu? Should I be a good guy here? Should I be a good guy here? Yes or no, Stu? I'm gonna put this in the power of you.
Good guy to who?
To Carlos.
Yes.
Okay.
I would have voted no.
You want to join us for dinner tonight?
I'd love to. What time?
6:30. We're doing the Zach Gelb Show holiday dinner at a steakhouse. It's very close by. It's we take the 1 train. It's 5 minutes from the station. You want to join us?
You think JR and Hickey will let me? I still got to do those. I'm on the hook every hour here doing this at 6:30, at 7:30, at 8:30 Eastern.
I'm an idiot. Okay? And I do this with Ack sometimes, and Ack just, I love Ack, but he's Ack, right? So I'll be I'll just be saying goodbye to him. Hey, have a good night. Good to see you again. Great to work with you. And he'll be like, well, my shift isn't over there, Chief. And I'm like, okay, I'm just saying goodbye.
And that's why.
And there's sometimes where I'm programmed that when the show ends, it's over. And your shift goes into JR and goes into Hickey.
Yeah, which indirectly leads into mine.
Do the updates from the restaurant.
Not a bad idea.
Oh, here comes Full Light. Yeah, we're sitting here. No one really cares about what's going on in the sports world right now. Zach Gelb just ordered some polenta fries. We got some asparagus, and we got lobster mac and cheese on its way.
I think our affiliates would love to know what you ordered.
Yeah.
I can give them play-by-play of how you're cutting the steak.
And let's be
real.
real.
Are you a medium rare guy?
Some shows just talk about food for all 3 hours. So, let's just be real. It wouldn't be any different than some other shows. So. All well in the Bart world. Do you need me to communicate anything to him about any certain things that maybe are annoying you?
No, we have an open, direct line of communication. Bart's a great dude.
I got one problem with Bart.
Tell me.
I love Bart. Love Bart. Love Bart. Him sitting down in the championship chairs that he lined up. That led Milwaukee to a championship for the NBA Cup. For the NBA Cup, Bart's sitting. It was actually kind of funny. He's sitting there for people.
He was very proud of that video.
For people that don't know, Bart, when the Bucks looked like they were not going to win the NBA championship, said we're winning the championship this year, and he lined up chairs on the parade route. And he was saying, I'm reserving my spot now. So Bart went back there the other night when the Bucks won the NBA Cup. And there is no one up at 2 or 3 in the morning.
No, it was
and he is just screaming, anyone here to celebrate the championship? It was really good.
Well done by him.
So was he drunk as a skunk for that show?
No, of course not. I can't speak to what happens after the show.
I would say he probably has already told you, because I think it's his greatest claim to fame. He was hammered the night after the Bucks won the championship.
As God intended, of course.
But I'm sure he's talked about this in the air.
Oh, for sure.
He walked from being out the entire night into the studio, passed out on the couch for 1 hour, and then did his morning show after the Bucks won the championship.
Yeah, we were talking about that video. I think he mentioned it just this week. So good stuff. But that's why we do this, right?
Yeah, you got Bucks loss. I love me some Bart Winkler. He's great. All righty. Here it is with the latest Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash. One of the all-time greats, Carlos O.K.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, Thursday night football tonight with the 9-5 Broncos visiting SoFi Stadium, taking on the 8-6 Chargers. Both teams in the driver's seats for the AFC wildcards. But Denver head coach Sean Payton thinks they'll be the ones feeling right at home.
Couldn't get over 2/3 of the stadium were Denver fans. And so I know we'll travel well.
Are you familiar with the work of Patrick Taylor Jr.? Well, you might have to be if you're the 49ers, as Isaac Guerrero suffered a hamstring injury in a Niners loss to the Rams last week. He is unlikely to suit up Sunday against the Dolphins. Ouch. And barring any setbacks, the Chiefs will activate wide receiver Hollywood Brown from injury reserve, and Patrick Mahomes has been taken off the injury report. He will start on Saturday against the Texans. In NBA news, the Cavaliers will be without defensive stud Isaac Okoro for a couple of weeks, He suffered a sprained right shoulder in a win over the Nets. And in baseball, right-handed starting pitcher Mike Soroka agrees to a one-year deal with the Nationals. And the Cubs will welcome back Sammy Sosa to the organization after former star slugger issued a statement of apology for past mistakes. Go, Cubs, go. I'm Carlos Ortiz.
And I'm not having steak tonight.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back
All right, this is Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Got a few minutes left to play right here. Broncos and Chargers tonight. So I'm really curious how this game's going to play out. Because, it is a big game, but it's not a big game. Neither of these teams are going on a Super Bowl run, but they both should be in the postseason. And whoever wins tonight, right, you're in. When you take a glance and you look at Denver being 9-5 and the Chargers being 8-6, and you just look at the teams that are still chasing for the wild card. Miami's still alive at 6-8 for that last spot. The Bengals 6-8. Does anyone actually believe in that team? The Colts as well. So in all likelihood, your wild card teams are going to be the Ravens, the Broncos, and the Chargers, and it's just whatever order that plays out in. You feel, I would imagine, the winner of this game tonight is going to feel pretty damn good about themselves. But hey, Broncos win, they get their 10th win of the season. The Chargers, they get their 9th win of the season. Chargers right now have lost their last 2. Broncos have won 4 in a row. But to give a thought or a prediction on this game to me, it's not really that important. I think it's more so the conversation, big picture, is where are these teams heading the next 5 years? Right? And the Chargers today are 2.5-point favorite. I lean the Chargers winning this game tonight. But I look at both these teams right now and just their coach and just their quarterback. Stu, I ask you this. The next 5 years, do you believe more in Sean Payton as the head coach of the Broncos or Jim Harbaugh as the coach of the Los Angeles Chargers?
I'd say Jim Harbaugh.
I would agree with you as well. Even though Sean has won a Super Bowl and Jim has not. Jim has been there. He's won a national championship in college football. But I think the culture that Jim Harbaugh builds is just more suited for what football is now than Sean Payton. Sean, as phenomenal of a coach he could be, he does get that little Belichick in him as well, where the locker room at times could hate his guts, which I don't think is always the worst thing in the world. Harbaugh, he's one of those coaches who is a tough coach, but a player coach, but not a doormat. And I like what I'm seeing and hearing so far in year one with Jim Harbaugh out in L.A. Now, quarterback-wise, is there any remorse on Justin Herbert? Is there that thought of skepticism that maybe Herbert's not going to be all that? And with what you've seen from Bo Nix right now, and you pair him with Sean Payton, do you believe that from 5 years from now, we're talking about Bo Nix, Stu, being a better quarterback than Justin Herbert?
I'd say probably not. It's close. That one's closer for me just because of the what if of Nix.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think we kind of know what Herbert is, especially, once he has a coach. I think there might be a little more of a ceiling for Nix. It's just a matter if he hits it. I'd still probably go Herbert.
So I actually think it's closer between Harbaugh and Payton. That was the one that I struggled a lot more with. When I look at Bo Nix, I think he's solid. I think he's good. I don't know how long this is going to last in the NFL. And I'm curious what next year looks like in terms of the adjustments of him being perceived as a good quarterback in this league. But he's been really damn solid this year. You know, who's the quarterback, Stu? and it may not even be style of play, but the way that we talk about him. Who does Herbert remind you of? Is there a quarterback from the past? Because I think there's an obvious one here.
Style of play.
I'm saying it doesn't have to be style of play. Just who's someone that the way we talk about Herbert.
Oh, Phillip Rivers.
Right?
Yes.
Isn't this just
Definitely.
Phillip Rivers 2.0? Where Justin Herbert's going to put up really good numbers, right? People will have that debate. Is he just good or is he great? And then he probably won't ever win a Super Bowl. With Harbaugh, you can, though. Like, it's a possibility. But both these teams, man, in the next 5 years, if they want to just go from being good to great, because right now the Broncos are good. Right now the Chargers are good. They got to go get better skill position players. You know, this could be the battle. We were talking about with Hunter Henry, how I want the Patriots to go get T. Higgins. Obviously, the Patriots should be all in on T. Higgins. You need to go get Drake May, a number one wide receiver. But the Broncos and the Chargers, with the seasons that they're having right now and they're winning, they got to get more dudes there. They just do. They got to go get a player like can you imagine Ladd McConkey as your 2? Or maybe even one day your 3. And I think Ladd McConkey's really damn good. And T. Higgins is your 1. And yeah, get another player similar to Ladd McConkey as your 2, as your 2. And that's your receiving core. And like Sutton's good with the Broncos, but they could use another big wide receiver there. You know, it wouldn't shock me if they're all over Tez Johnson, by the way. I could see the Broncos getting Tez Johnson, especially with that family relationship between Bo Nix and Tez Johnson. So both these teams, it's a good foundational year. They've overachieved. I'm not saying that it reminds me exactly of the Texans, but both these teams overachieved. Both are going to the playoffs. Both could maybe win a playoff game. But now are you just going to stay right where you are? Or next year, will you take that next step? And that's going to be the big thing to see what the Broncos and the Chargers do this offseason. Both these years for these teams, it's successful. I don't care what happens the rest of the way. Both these teams have had success. Now it's can you go from good to either very good or good to great? And can you jump into that spot where you could tangibly feel like your team has a chance to be in striking distance of grabbing that Super Bowl trophy a year from now? So I'll take the Chargers tonight. I think the Broncos are just due to lose. And, I'll have Herbert just slightly outperforming Bo Nix tonight. That will do it for a Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show. Big thanks for Hunter Henry for stopping by. Big thanks for, obviously, Carlos with the K doing our updates. Stu Pock and Michael Samter hanging out as well. And we'll be back tomorrow on a big football Friday. We got not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 college football playoff games to talk about. We got Broncos Chargers to recap. We got an NFL slate coming up this weekend that you will see games on Saturday and Sunday. And also, quack, quack, the head coach of the Oregon Ducks, the undefeated Oregon Ducks, the number 1 team on the country. They're sitting up this weekend with their feet on the table, right? They're on the couch, feet are on the table because they got to buy. Dan Lanning will join us for a few minutes coming up tomorrow at some point on the Extravaganza. We'll talk on Friday, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. Stu, Samter, and I, we're off to go eat some food while Carlos with the K will continue to give you your updates. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.